Well, hey, I'm Connor,
Hey, I'm Rutledge.
and we are Friends Stream Sports. We're here tonight, ready to roll. Rutledge, how are you feeling? How's everything going up there in Augusta, Georgia?
It's going good. Obviously, we're doing a Zoom show tonight, so the Augusta internet wasn't playing well with me this evening, but doing good, getting out there, drinking some water, having a good day. How about you?
It is one of those water kind of days. It's been a little hot. For those who've been following me on Facebook, I may or may not have super just called Rutledge out on my Facebook story. So go check out my Facebook. Go subscribe to our YouTube. It's just a lot of fun. Good to see you, my man. And yeah, we're getting into that summertime, which means a lot of sports, man. Your ESPN and Fox Sports and everything must be pretty hot these days.
There's a lot of heat coming around, and I know we didn't plan to talk about this, but I think there's some heat in Tuscaloosa, as I believe Nick Saban has found the elixir of life and must be chasing the next record, which is to just coach longer than Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden at this point. Because did you see that contract extension?
Until 2028.
2028. Clearly, Mrs. Saban likes her full-time job as a grandma, while Pop Nick is just off yelling at 20-year-olds.
I'll share a joke that my dad tells. He says, my wife married me for better or for worse, but not for lunch. What that means is that there could be a situation where, Mama Saban said, you know what, Nick, you get to go spread all of your joy to the Alabama practice facility throughout the day, and don't come home until you've spread all the joy that you can. And then I'll be here waiting for you.
Wow. I'm pretty sure your dad told that joke at your rehearsal dinner when I was there.
He's been telling that joke for a while now. He's just about as old as Nick Saban, so that kind of makes sense. Maybe it's like a, birth year kind of thing.
Maybe it's a birth year. Maybe it's something in the water, something in
Something
the
in the
vintage.
water. But well, speaking of water, Rutledge, the nice Rocky Mountain glaciers led to a United States victory over Mexico in a tournament final on Sunday night.
Was huge. Christian Pulisic really showed that he was an addition to the team. There's a lot that they got going on for them. It was good to see that the United States men's team was able to stand up and make this kind of victory, especially since they're playing so many games, getting ready for that World Cup qualifier stretch. So it's
Mhm.
good to see them bring any victory for the U.S. men's national team, especially still recovering for those of us that follow it from missing the last World Cup, is good to see. Um, I will say, I know this is jumping ahead a bit, but I'm also excited to see that Walker Zimmerman got called up to join the national team when they play Costa Rica, because as we talked about in our prior show, we're still looking for defensive options. So it's good to see, even though, hey, we won, we got the medal, we're not settled. We're still really working the squad, really trying to find that 11.
Well, so yeah, Rutledge, who do you think is going to be that other center back pair, right? Because Walker Zimmerman, he's going to go play center back. So who are some folks who you think are in that center back potential to partner with John Brooks there in that defensive middle?
Um, it's got to be, John Brooks. Maybe we bring back Mark McKenzie, move him out of the midfield and put him more into a center back position. I know him and Brooks can work up and down the field,
Mm.
but do we transition him in a different position? I know he, of course, had that bad play, led to a goal by Mexico, but we definitely are not a team right now that needs to worry about the front of it. We're starting to get that strong nine identity, starting to get a little bit of that striker presence to where they can start to make some plays, but it's really holding the defense because we can hang on this side of the world, but once we start hanging with South America, or even when we start playing with some of Europe, I don't think we're ready on the defensive ball that we're just going to get taken out to lunch.
Yeah, you've got and this is something that we can chat about here even right now. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is our first teaser of the night. This is Connor and Rutledge working on teasers. Uh, so, on a scale, speaking of Mark McKenzie, though, Rutledge, on a scale of not starting in big games anymore to not selected in the team anymore. How big of a defensive blunder was Mark McKenzie's blunder that led to that first Mexico goal?
I mean, there's a lot of pressure on this team, so any blunder is a big blunder. This team's got, the country is starting to really evolve and being, a soccer nation. Like we've always loved the sport, but this year feels different. There's a lot of pressure on it, so you can't make those blunders. You can't. This leadership is showing that you just can't make those mistakes. This isn't old US soccer where, okay, yeah, we'll let you go because you're all we have left. The depth is better, and there's people we can try to pull from. So I think it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I think that I don't think Mark McKenzie has probably lost his spot in the team totally, but just like, and this is where you and I will differ. I still don't think the United States has a striker yet. I think they've got some guys who have a few guys who've kind of separated themselves and a few guys that could have separated themselves that didn't. But in the same way, and I believe Mark McKenzie played center back on Sunday night. He's a guy that could have really cemented himself or done a good job to cement himself into that center back position. But struggled. But hey, we're only human. He'll probably get a few more chances this summer with a ton of games coming up. You excited for the Gold Cup?
Yeah, it'll be big to see and see what sort of happens. I'm also excited for when they play Costa Rica this week, even though it's just a friendly. How do we continue to pivot? What do we look like for that endurance of that long stretch of continuous games? So they're going through a little bit of the ringer, but I feel like they can handle it.
And what's interesting, FIFA or even CONMEBOL, right? Some of those games in Costa Rica is a little bit better than some CONCACAF sides. I think I saw a game the United States played against Martinique that, I mean, looked like a middle school stadium that they were playing at. And the grass was like 5 inches tall. And it just, kind of, there's some CONCACAF games that I think maybe, although the quality isn't like you're playing in the Euros and, you got, this super team versus this super team, you can go down into kind of that Trinidad, Tobago, Panama, Costa Rica, those kind of sides. And Keylor Navas is Costa Rican, right? I mean, he's no slouch. But I mean, it gets chippy. Guys will be physical, and there's a toughness that I think there's some value there, especially with young guys there for the U.S. side.
Definitely some pivot. Definitely just showing that they have something to prove. I like this team, or at least the foundations of where it's going.
So speaking of foundations, in your opinion, who are the guys that have already, who are some names that you say this person, if we're best 11, like if we're playing Germany or Brazil or Argentina tomorrow, who are some guys that you're saying they're in the lineup, no questions asked?
I definitely want to bring up some guys with international experience. So Pulisic, Daryl DK, want to have Zach Steffen out there. Defensively need John Brooks, Gio Reyna. Those are just some of the guys that I would be like, all right, if these aren't on, I feel stressed. So feel good about those guys on the pitch. Who would you put out there to make sure you're good about?
Yeah, I think for sure Christian Pulisic, right? I think his big thing will be interesting. And let's remember Tyler Adams was not playing last night. I think he's still hurt. But I think Pulisic out there on one of the wings, which if you're playing a 4-3-3, probably, in my opinion, the only one of the forward three positions that is totally booked. I think Tim Weah still has some opportunities to make some, make a case. I think, between Daryl DK and Josh Sargent, I think those are probably kind of your two guys that are still going to duke it out to who's going to be striker. I think on an MLS guy, I love watching Paul Arriola play because he flies around and, he might not be the most technical guy, but he's fast and he's gonna be a problem for defense. I think in the midfield, I think that's where the U.S.'s best position right now which is a true sign of us progressing as a soccer country and our progression as a team. I think between Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, and in my opinion, even though he's been hurt, I would say you play Tyler Adams in there. You got guys between McKennie and Adams that can play a variety of positions that can really make an impact. And Gio Reyna is just really, really creative on the ball. In defense, I think, I think John Brooks is probably the only one that for sure has it. 2 weeks ago, I'd have said Serginho Dest, but he's struggled. I think I think he's had some issues there. But in between the pipes, gotta take the tip of the cap to Evan Horvath. But Zach Steffen I think he's our number one keeper for sure. He seemed more comfortable in there throughout the course. So the lineup is getting there, but I think there's still some questions to be asked and some things to work out.
Definitely a lot of work to do, but you're right. Huge moment for Horvath. At least like it'll be one of those very solidified moments in U.S. soccer history.
Mm-hmm.
Flipping over on the soccer side, just a quick MLS update. Of course, there are not a lot of games right now due to all international play going on, but as leads on both sides of the league, Seattle leads the West, New England leads the East. Connor, who out of those two teams do you feel like is the more put together of Seattle and New England?
Well, Seattle is on pace to score more points than any team in the history of MLS. They've started out really hot. They're just a really well-run organization. So I think the Sounders, have it really going on. New England, led by Bruce Arena, their coach, he's definitely got the experience. But if you were to put New England versus Seattle, I'd be very confident that the Sounders would go ahead and take that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. Seattle looks really, really good. Surprisingly, Charlotte is, well, not surprisingly, but Charlotte's hanging in there in the standings. There's a decent amount of parity going on. We'll see what the summer brings for Major League Soccer because that separates who does from who. Of course, the teams that play outside of the southern humidity seem to fare better, except for Atlanta, who has to sit inside in what is a very pretty stadium, but I think an unfair advantage that you have air conditioning and different LED lighting.
Yeah, that's true, but they do tend to have more night games if you're further south. So for folks like me that go to bed, right when the sun, go to bed with the sun and rise with the sun, 9 p.m. Orlando City starts are not my favorite things.
No, I got up at 6 a.m. today, Connor. You'd be proud of me.
How was it?
I worked out, and then afterwards, I didn't know what to do. There was so much morning left. I was like, do I go back to bed? Do I have another breakfast? I just didn't know what to do with all my time.
You could have read a book. You could have gone on a walk. You could have done some stretching, maybe some post-workout calisthenics.
I definitely enjoyed my coffee. I'll put it that way.
Good.
I had the time to not just, stick it into my veins and hope for the best. I can enjoy it.
Oh, well, that's true. And